Welcome to another episode of Take a Bite out of South Florida. Today, we are going to be sipping on some delicious cocktails featuring an American aperitif called Munyon's Paw Paw, and it's made with 14 all-natural botanicals. It's made right here in Florida. It's distilled here in Florida, and I am here with the co-founders, Joe Colucci and Paul Massey. So
good afternoon.
Thank you for joining me here. We're at Penelope in Mizner Park in Boca. Gorgeous new restaurant that just opened recently. It's like New Orleans style food. We have a little bit of the French Quarter feel here in Boca. Love this restaurant. You can see some of the decor in the background. Great food, great cocktails, and Munyon's Paw Paw is on the menu here, which is why we're here, right? So tell us a little bit about yourselves and let's take us through the story. What is Munyon's Paw Paw?
Sure, I guess I'll start us off, Joe, but Joe and I worked together 20 plus years ago in the industry. In West Palm Beach for Cruzan Rum. We helped build up Cruzan Rum to a point where it was sold, and then the two of us reconnected and launched a Polish vodka, also located in Palm Beach Gardens. The group was called the Belvedere Group. They launched Belvedere Vodka, and then we introduced Sobieski Vodka.
Oh,
and,
big names.
Yeah, and so we helped build those brands. Sobieski to 1 million cases. It was sold off as well. Neither Joe or I had equity in the brand, and we always said, hey, at some point we need to do this ourselves. So that was about 12 or 13 years ago. And then about 7 years ago, Joe reached out to me from the only state park in Palm Beach County. It's called MacArthur State Park. He saw a display there of a bottle just like this and a little bio of this Dr. James Munyon. So he called me up and he said, hey, I think I have an idea for a brand. I headed over to MacArthur State Park, saw the display that he had seen, and I said, wow, this is intriguing, and went home that night, went on Wikipedia, and looked up Dr. James Munyon and his cure-all elixir, Munyon's Paw Paw. There was very little information on the internet.
I've never heard. I was like, well, who's Dr. Munyon? What does Munyon's Paw Paw mean? Like, we got to get more into this. It's such an interesting name.
Yeah, exactly. So that was pretty much myself when Joe said, hey, you have to come see this display. So I went home that night, looked on Wikipedia. There were a couple paragraphs on Dr. James Munyon, but not a whole lot of substance there. So I said to Joe, Joe, I like your idea here, but I don't even know where to start looking into this gentleman. And then a couple weeks later, Joe, you want to take the story from here?
Sure. So it's an appropriate story for being in Boca. I went to FAU, and actually...
That's right, you guys are both South Florida locals.
Correct. Yeah, so I'm in Jupiter, Paul's in Palm Beach Gardens, and I actually went to the campus up in Jupiter.
Oh,
and,
I did not know they had a campus in Jupiter.
They do. They opened it just when I started going. I'm going to date myself, but they opened it back in '99, and I went down. I was part of the first class, and fortunately, when we were looking for something a little bit more about the brand, very Florida story. I was in a Publix, of all places, and I bumped into my history professor from FAU. And I said, hey, Dr. Strain, and he's like, you can call me Joe now. You can call me Chris now. And I said, I'm trying to find out a little bit of information about a local historical figure. And he said, the best place to go is the Historical Society of Palm Beach County. So go take a look there, figure out what you can, and let me know. So I told Paul, and next thing you know, we're spending countless hours in the Historical Society learning all we can about them. So if you want to talk about the story of Ned.
Sure. So met with the archivist at the Historic Society of Palm Beach County. They had a ton of information on Dr. James Munyon, much of which was donated by one gentleman. And I asked the archivist, I said, who is this Ned Heindel that's donated a bunch of this information? She said, I'm not quite sure who he is, but he's been down here several times. I believe he's a professor up in New England somewhere, and he's researching the life of Dr. James Munyon. So that night I went home, I looked up the name Ned Heindel on the internet, found out he was the head of the chemistry department at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. We have no idea what his connection with Dr. James Munyon is at this point.
Interesting.
Calling, emailing the school, and literally after a dozen phone calls, he picks up at the university one day and he says, I've been researching the life of Dr. James Munyon for 50 years. What would you like to know about him?
50 years?
50 years. Ned at the time was in his early 70s.
Why did he like this guy so much?
Great question. That's the question I asked him. And he said he was a chemistry major in college. He was right out of college, out to dinner with one of his buddies, and they were talking about all the homeopathic doctors at the turn of the century. And his buddy said to him 50 years ago, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, you need to look up the life of Dr. James Munyon. He was atypical of any of the homeopathic doctors at that time. they were all making outrageous claims of their cure-alls. So most of them were flying under the radar. Dr. James Munyon was front and center in every one of his advertisements with his famous salutation, his finger pointed in the air saying, "There is hope." They said at the turn of the century, he was more popular than the president of the United States in the early 1900s.
Wow.
So anyway, had this great conversation with Ned on the phone. I tell him that Joe and I are in the liquor business, and we're trying to bring back his cure-all elixir, Munyon's Paw Paw, and we'd love to fly up to Pennsylvania and meet with him in person. So right before COVID hit, Joe and I jumped on a plane, went up to Easton, Pennsylvania. Ned asked to meet us in a pub and wanted to drink beers with us all afternoon, which that was fine with Joe and myself.
I mean, it sounds like a perfect afternoon. How else?
So we get up there, and on the flight up, I said to Joe, I said, if he's been working on a book on Dr. James Munyon for 50 years, the chances of it ever being published are slim to none. So let's ask if he'll give us a transcript of the book. So when we arrived at the pub, the first thing he did was saying, "Hey, it's almost complete. Here's the transcript of the book I'm writing on Dr. James Munyon." And that was really just a critical piece of us saying, okay, now it's serious.
Yeah.
The story's incredible. Let's figure out how to bring this brand back to life. But
Is that the book?
So you can get into it, Joe, if you want.
Yeah, sure. So Ned finally published the book, and it's called Medicine, Music, and Money Munyon. And it's just this great story about James Munyon's life. So anyway, we decided, hey, like Paul said, we got to bring this thing back. It's just too cool of a story. So where do we go from here? So after learning all this fascinating things about James Munyon, so he owned one of the largest homeopathic remedy companies at the turn of the last century, and he was selling millions of bottles. They say, adjusted for inflation, this guy was selling about $170 million a year annually of this.
Wow.
He was as famous as the president, as Paul mentioned, and it was just a larger-than-life figure. He had hotels up in Maine. He had a hotel down here. So he came down to Florida on Flagler's Railroad in the late 1800s. He saw Munyon Island. At the time, it was owned by a local pioneer family called the Pitts family. So he bought it off of them in 1901. By 1903, he had a hotel on the island called the Hotel Hygeia, which was named for the Greek goddess of health. And it was the main distribution point for Munyon's Paw Paw. So he would invite all his northern friends to come down, revive, rejuvenate.
So what part of the area is this?
So it's in northern Palm Beach County. It's in between Singer Island and the mainland, which is North Palm Beach right there.
Okay.
So it's a little tiny mangrove-covered island right now. There's nothing on it. The hotel burned down, sadly, in 1917, and Munyon passed away shortly thereafter. But there's actually the only state park in Palm Beach County is called John D. MacArthur State Park. And that state park is located on Singer Island. And if you go there and rent kayaks, they'll give you a little map and say, hey, you should paddle out to Munyon Island. And that's where I had seen the display of Dr. James Munyon and the original bottle. And that's what kicked off the whole entire idea. So it was kind of interesting. And we said, hey, let's just keep putting one foot in front of the other and seeing where this goes.
I love it. I love the background. And so one of the things I read was the botanicals and ingredients used to make this, most were grown on that island, or at least inspired by those that were grown on that island.
You've
correct?
done your homework.
I did. I always do my homework.
So it's really cool. So the hotel was the first boutique hotel in the area. It only had 21 rooms, but he had these lavish gardens on the island. He was growing 2,000 different types of roses on the island.
Wow.
But he was also, we have old postcards that show he was growing papaya, orange, hibiscus, and grapefruit on the island as well.
And all of those things are
and all of them are in today's formula. So, but back to meeting with Ned. When we met with Ned, we told him we had an unopened bottle of the original elixir. We have about a dozen of the old bottles, 3 of which have the cork in there. So Ned said, no one has analyzed this since the early 1900s. Extract a sample and send it up to me to have it analyzed. So really cool. In his book is my neighbor extracting a sample. Joe, can you find page 200? Extracting a sample of the original formulation that he analyzed.
And what were his analyzations?
So there it is.
Cool.
Oh yeah. So it's wild.
Is this the book?
So Dr.
really
Munyon
cool.
was prescribing this to anyone that was 5 or older. It was about 20% alcohol by volume. It had fermented papaya in it. Floridians used to call papaya Paw Paw, so that's where the name came from.
Ah, okay. I was wondering. I was like, what does that mean?
But here's the kicker. We knew there was papaya in it. There was Nux vomica that was in all these homeopathic medicines. We knew the alcohol range was somewhere between 15 and 24% alcohol. Shockingly to Ned, Joe, and myself, there was actually THC in the original formulation as well.
Interesting.
And he was selling millions of bottles, and it was $1 a bottle, which equates to about $40 today.
And you're giving this to 5-year-olds?
5 and older, with a slogan, a cure for whatever ails you. Yeah. So, and Dr. Munyon, outside of having his homeopathic medicine company, Joe mentioned he had the hotel down here. He had another in Maine. He was truly a Renaissance man. He was a songwriter. We have some of his original sheet music here. That song right there was in the running to become our national anthem.
Wow, I love that you brought props.
Oh, yeah. And then this is really cool, too. This is a song that he wrote about Palm Beach in the early 1900s.
Oh, my God, how cool.
Back down where the Paw Paw grows.
That's really cool.
So, yeah, fascinating individual. So once we heard the whole history, every great spirits brand has a fascinating backstory, and we think our story's second to none.
And it's so Florida. It's so Palm Beach. It's, it all comes full circle. And you guys are from this area, and I love how everything just ties together.
Yeah. So, and then, as far as the formulation goes, maybe you can take us through how we came up with that, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So Paul had mentioned that we had the items that we found that were grown on the island, right? So we knew that we wanted to incorporate those. So you go to all these different companies in the industry, you basically find these what's called co-packers or contract bottlers, and they'll tell you, hey, we can formulate these things for you. And they do a lot of mass production, and we would go to them and say, hey, we want something that's all natural. We want something that's like a real, true craft product. And they would say, okay, no problem. And then we'd get a sample 72 hours later with the shipping included. It's like, how much effort could they have put into this, right?
Right.
And it would always show up, and it would taste like, to me, it always reminded me of a Jolly Rancher. Those old candies.
Like that fake
sugar.
sweet, yeah.
And we'd say,
Horrible
hey.
aftertaste.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we'd say, like, hey, we said all natural. And they'd be like, oh, this is all natural. Flavor number 12874 is all natural. And all right, we don't want that. We want a real product. So fortunately, Paul knew a guy who sells distilling equipment. We told him this story over some cocktails. We were at a bar in Palm Beach Gardens, and he said, I know just the guy to put you in touch with. There's a really cool craft distillery in Miami called Big Cypress Distilling. Fernando Plata is the master distiller, and he does an incredible job. He's got a great following. I think you should talk to him. So Fernando was pretty proud of what he did and said, hey, I really just do my own stuff, and this is kind of my passion here. After we took him through the story we just took you through, he said, this is pretty darn interesting,
Yeah.
and I'd always love to do an aperitif. We wanted to do an aperitif because, aperitifs, for anybody who doesn't know, it's a bittersweet liqueur that comes from a European tradition, which is originally kind of created to open your palate before a meal. And even before that, they were always medicinal. They would have medicinal traits from roots and vegetables and things like that. And botanicals. So we said it has that similar story to having a medicinal history. Also, the category is taking off in the U.S., but it's still really kind of at the beginning of it, right? The genesis of the category in the U.S. So we thought it'd be pretty fascinating to bring it back as an aperitif. So we wound up meeting with Fernando, and right off the bat, we could tell, all right, this first sample isn't the final one, but this is the guy. He's incredible at what he does.
Yeah.
So met him a bunch of times. I mean, it was great. He'd have eyedroppers, and he'd be like, all right, what do you want? A little more of this, a little more of that. And that's how we landed on the 14 all-natural ingredients you see. It was a labor of love. It took quite some time, but we finally settled on what you taste in the bottle now.
And when did you officially launch?
Yeah, we officially launched in January of 2023.
Oh.
Yeah.
So,
It's pretty recent.
yeah, I guess. Well, we're almost in 2025, so you're almost to your 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
2-year anniversary. So a few things that we do different than anyone else out there in the industry. Joe mentioned European tradition. Most of these brands come out of Europe, Italy, the Camparis, the Aperols of the world. We obviously make ours here in Florida. We do it at a really cool craft distillery in Miami called Big Cypress. We're the only ones that are doing all natural. So if you look at Aperol, Campari's labels, artificial colors, FDC red, all that stuff we didn't want to have in ours. And then lastly, we're the only brand out there in the cordial liqueur category where you can open up our back label
And all the ingredients
and we
are
show
right
you
there.
everything that's in
Yep.
there. So really cool. This is has been a great talking piece to bartenders, restaurant owners, things along those lines. It's almost like a hidden message.
It's really cool. I'm going to read off the ingredients for everyone to hear. It's made with allspice, angelica, which I don't know what that is. What is angelica?
It's a bittering agent.
Okay. Anise, bitter orange, cane sugar, elderflower, Florida orange,
Gentian.
gentian. Oh, another thing I don't know what that is. What is that?
Another bittering agent.
Another bitter.
Yeah.
Okay. All the things that I don't know are bittering agents, which is funny because I hate anything bitter.
Really?
But I really actually like this. It's way better than, I'm not a fan of like Aperol or
It's not
Campari.
nearly as bitter as
not.
those two.
It also has ginger, hibiscus, orange blossom, papaya, passion fruit, and pink grapefruit.
There you go.
That's awesome.
And the other cool thing, it only has 4 grams of sugar per ounce, so a lot less sugar than most of the cordials
Yeah.
and liqueurs out there in the market.
Absolutely, which is always nice.
So yeah, we're in year 2. Last year when we launched, it was awarded the best new modifier, which means cordial liqueur in the United States by the Wine Spirits Wholesalers of America.
awesome.
So still plenty of heavy lifting, but so far out of the gates, it's going quite well.
I love that. So what are there? Obviously you have it here at Penelope in Boca. Are there any other restaurants in the area that have it on the menu or use it for cocktails?
Yeah, Kapow, right across the street. Maggie McFly's. There's a bunch of
Okay.
other restaurants that we have too. And as you kind of branch out from pretty much from here to the North County, Palm Beach, you can find it at a lot of great restaurants. And then
Awesome.
ABC, Total Wine, bunch of other liquor stores as well.
What does
So
it retail for?
right about $30 a bottle.
Great. I love it. It's awesome. I have tried it, and like I said before, I don't like Aperol spritzes. It's too bitter for me. But when I first tried this, when I first met you guys, I really liked it. I especially love your signature Palm Beach Spritz cocktail. That's so up my alley. It's equal parts, right? Munyon's Paw Paw, Prosecco, and grapefruit, Fever Tree grapefruit, so like a sparkling grapefruit. And if you know me, you know how much I love Prosecco. So it's definitely my drink, and I like the grapefruit. And that, did I just see you guys that you served that? What was that event?
Oh, right
The
here.
Taste of the City place up in West
That's
Palm.
right. Yep.
And then you were here for Sunset Tequila Fest
Correct.
a couple weekends ago. So yeah, you're getting involved in the community, which is awesome. There's so many cool events that we do in the area that are food and beverage focused. And this is a great, like you said, a good talking piece, a great talking
Sure.
piece with anybody. There's so much to learn about it.
And it's a really versatile product as
Yeah.
well. You can use it in spritzes. You can also use it. I know Myles here uses it. And
Myles is going to make us something really good.
Okay, music to our ears.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ready to make that for us.
Huh? He heard us over there. Huh?
Myles makes the best cocktails.
No, hands
Like,
down.
hands down.
Yeah.
I don't even need to know what's in it. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to like it.
Yeah.
We went to, a
Go
funny
ahead.
story. I think it was last summer. It was this year. It was in March. I got invited to this whiskey event in Miami. I don't drink whiskey. My fiance, on the other hand, is a huge whiskey drinker. So we go down. Myles happens to be one of the bartenders that was there. And I just kept going back to his table because I was like, whatever cocktail he's making, even though it has whiskey, I know I'm going to like it. And it was the only one I liked the whole night.
He's a magician. We met Myles literally right after we launched the brand, took him through the story, tasted him on it, and the wheel started turning.
I'm sure
and
I
everything
can-
he turns out is
Yeah.
just gold. It really is.
I believe it. So let's see what he's going to make us.
Sounds great.
Okay, so we're basically doing a variation on a sidecar. A sidecar is one of them kind of cocktails that you just gotta try to understand how delicious and how magical it is. The riff, though, that we're doing is that we're not going to be using a citrus liqueur. We're going to use Munyon's Paw Paw because Munyon's Paw Paw is amazing. That's all I got. It's a Florida aperitif, so you're going to get those bitter notes, but it's going to be a little bit sweeter, a little more vibrant in flavor, and you're going to have a lot more complexities in the Munyons itself. Some cognac, lemon juice, simple syrup, really easy, really simple. So we're going to start with some lemon juice. A little bit of simple. Munyon's Paw Paw, of course. The good old. And then a little bit of VSOP cognac of your choice. Use whatever you like. As long as you like what's in your glass, that's all that matters. Give it a little shake. A little wink for your drink. Now, just gonna rim this, right? Gonna put a little lemon juice on the side of the glass. And then just rim it in some sugar. And then we just strain. And then I'm just gonna garnish this bad boy with a little dehydrated lemon. And that's it. Simple and easy.
All right, Myles, you made us some cocktails. Tell us about what we are about to try.
Beautiful. So I made you guys a riff off of a Sidecar. So a Sidecar is honestly one of my favorite cocktails just because it's simple in nature, right? But it has a lot of flavors. So for an original Sidecar, you're supposed to use orange liqueur. So instead of the orange liqueur, I replaced it with the Munyon's Paw Paw. Just orange liqueurs tend to be a little more sweet, a little lacking in flavor. It just tends to be a little more flat. Munyon's Paw Paw has just a lot of complexities that I love in cocktails because you get those orange elements, right? Then you get a little bit of sugar, you get a little bit of bitterness, and all those things balance out when you pair that with cognac and lemon juice.
Oh, I'm excited. Well, all that talk about the liqueur, now we're drinking it. So cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Myles.
You're welcome. So, what's the verdict?
Ooh,
That's absolutely
that's delicious.
Yeah. Really good.
Never in my life would I think that I'd like enjoy cognac, but like, wow.
Super well balanced.
Very well
Right?
balanced.
Yeah.
Very well balanced. Super, like, just almost refreshing in a way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
It's
in
really
cocktails.
good.
When it's balanced, you can never go wrong. Not too boozy, not too sweet.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not too boozy. Because I can see how that could easily like go over the threshold of being too boozy if you
Correct.
just don't balance it out right. But that is delicious, and this is why you are the master mixologist.
Stop.
Master
Myles-
mixologist Myles.
Sidecar dates back to
1922.
1922.
Yep, that's one of those foundational
Original-
cocktails. Yep,
the
that
original
a lot
classic.
of cocktails have derived from.
I love it. Awesome.
Yeah,
this
it's delicious.
is.
Thank you.
I really like this. I mean, it's kind of dangerous.
Dangerous in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Well,
That's great.
and this will go good with the dishes that we're going to try from Penelope here. So one of the things we're going to try I'm really excited about because it's a crab cake that's gluten-free. And I am gluten-free. I don't think I had mentioned to you guys. And most crab cakes, as I'm sure you know, especially being from Jersey, they all pretty much, I mean, most of the time you get them at restaurants, they have filler, breadcrumbs, panko, whatever kind of bread. I make mine without any. I don't think it needs it if you have good quality ingredients, and then that's how they're doing it here. So it's gluten-free.
So straight crab then? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I'm excited to try it.
So, so about the gluten-free thing. So, funny story about creating Munyons. My son had some issues and is gluten-free. And so now all my kids are. And so one of the things when we were creating Munyons, we told Fernando, the gentleman I was telling you about, said, hey, it's got to be gluten-free because my son can't drink now, but there will be a point where he's allowed to.
And you want him to be able
I want
to
to make
drink
sure
it.
he can drink it. So
Absolutely.
if anybody asks the question, it's always gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it hits all the marks. I love
There
it.
you go.
And vegan, right? There's
yeah.
nothing, there's no
Yeah.
like honey or
No.
anything in there. Great. It's perfect. I love it. No added sugars, no, it's just literally all of those ingredients that I read off before. Love it. This cocktail is so good.
Yeah. This is dangerously good, actually.
I also really am a sucker for a cocktail in a coupe glass.
I was gonna say,
I
it's
love,
fancy,
and I like
right?
to drink my prosecco in coupe glasses. Like this is my favorite kind of glass.
The glass definitely fits the
It
theme
fits
here.
the vibe.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I love. Have you guys gone? Have you been to New Orleans?
Yep.
So I love the French Quarter decor in here. It is it's spot on.
Yeah, it
and their
really is.
menu is very obviously like a lot of Cajun, and you got your bouillabaisse and your shrimp and grits, which I think they're also going to bring out for you guys to try.
There you go, Joe.
And yeah, the beignets, and I like the food is fantastic here. I really enjoyed. And they just started brunch.
Oh, great.
So now they're and opening for lunch too. So they're open all day for lunch, weekends, brunch, dinner, happy hour. It's a cool spot. I love it in here. All right, the food has arrived. We've got our crab cakes. I'm gonna take some photos of this. Oh yeah,
That all looks delicious.
need light.
Let me get you guys one setup too.
Huh?
Wow.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
You're welcome.
Let's see. So like I said, these crab cakes are gluten-free, which I love. And the shrimp and grits actually is too. I just personally can't have corn. So, and there's cheese in the grits, I believe. So, but I'm gonna take a picture before you eat. It smells really good.
I told you I ate lunch before I came. I can't pass this up though.
I don't know. You got more discipline than me. So.
All right. So we have the crab cakes, the shrimp and grits, and we're all gonna dig in and give these a try.
Here we go.
Actually, I should. Oh, for sure.
What help? Huh?
Oh, wow. These crab cakes are so good. The seasonings, the like sear on them. Oh my God, these are so good. And a little bit of a kick.
Yeah, this is delicious.
What do you think?
Perfect. Huh?
From-
I told you.
You
I
said
mar-
you eat a lot of
I married
Cajun
a
and
Louisiana girl. Don't let her hear this, but this is as advertised. Delicious.
it's really good.
Really good.
Grab this crab
What do
cake
you
before I
think?
eat it all.
Oh yeah, what do you think of the crab cake?
God, it's
I'll
unbelievable.
just have
So good. Oh,
a little bite.
whoops. I like the little salad too. The dressing's good. Yeah, sufficient lunch. Great cocktail to pair it with. Well, I'm super thankful for you guys coming, hanging out with me here at Penelope today, and educating us all about Munyon's Paw Paw and the incredibly interesting history of everything and how it came to be. I love your story. I really enjoy the aperitif, and I love this cocktail. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much to Penelope for hosting us, and to Myles for really making the Munyon's Paw Paw shine.
Yep. Couldn't have done it without Penelope. Thank you, Shayna, for having us. It's been a great afternoon.
It's really enjoyed meeting with you guys, and
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Shanna. Appreciate it.
appreciate it. And thank you guys. Thank you everyone for listening. As you know, Take a Bite Out of South Florida can be found on all your favorite podcast platforms. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. Till next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.